everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Yhinksweet. So in today's class I'm cutting out shorts that I'm going to be using for my crop top. All right, so from the starting point here, I'm going to be measuring down my crotch depth. My crotch depth, your crotch depth is your hip circumference measurement divided by 4. My hip circumference is 42 divided by 4, that will be 10.5. So from here I'll measure down 10.5. Then of course the length of my shorts. So for the length of my shorts, I'm going to be making it 15 inches with my seam allowance. So this is 15 inches then with my seam allowance. Then I will extend the lines. All right, so I'll come to my crotch depth line here. I'm going to input my seam allowance first. I'm going to be using 1.5 for my seam allowance. Then from my seam allowance, I'm going to measure quarter of my hip circumference measurement. My hip is 42 divided by 4, that will be 10.5. Then from here, I'll square it up. Next is to measure my crotch extension. Your front crotch extension is your hip circumference measurement divided by 20. My hip is 42 divided by 20, that will give me 2.2. So I'll measure from this line, I'll measure the 2.2. Can you see, like this? Then for us to have a better fit, I'm going to be slanting this line. So I'll come to this point, I'll come in by 1/2 inch. All right, so from here I'm going to slant it back to this point, this way. Can you see? Then the next is to finish up the crotch area with our cuff, touching this line and also touching this point. You get your crotch cuff. Can you see? It's as simple as that. So the next is to input your measurement here. Whatever measurement you get while measuring your lap, you're going to put it here, or you can just cut it straight, depends on what you want. All right, so the measurement you have here depends on what you want. I think I will just be having my straight like this, and also like this. So the next thing you want to do now is to put your waist circumference measurement. You're going to be measuring your waist circumference measurement from this line. So my waist circumference is 32 divided by 4, that will give me 8 inches. So from this line, I will measure the 8 inches towards this side, this way. Then I'm going to be putting my dart. I'm going to be putting that of 1 inch. And then I'm going to put my seam allowance of 1.5 inch. You remember I used 1.5 for my seam allowance here. That's why I put 1.5 here. So the next thing you want to do now is to connect from here to the crotch depth here with a slight cuff. And yeah, the front is ready. We can cut it out. So we're going to be using this to cut out the back. I'm going to be using just this part. This fabric is folded into 2. So I'm going to place this on top of it this way. So the only thing you're going to be doing differently now is to extend the back crotch extension. The back crotch extension is your hip circumference measurement divided by 10, and you're going to be measuring that from this point here. From this point you measure whatever that gives you. 42 divided by 10, that will give me 4.2. So from here I'll measure the 4.2. And then I'm going to just finish it this way. And that's all. You cut exactly the way the front is. The only difference is just the crotch extension. And of course, I didn't believe my fabric is enough. We are supposed to extend this part also by 1 inch, so that it's not going to be opening your butt at the back, but this is not enough right now, so I'm just going to make do with what I have here. Can you see? So we are done. The next thing you need to cut out now is your band. All right, so I've cut out band for my shorts. This one here is my half of my waist length measurement plus 2 inches. My waist is 32 divided by 2, that is 16 plus 2. So that is 18 inches. So the length I have here is 18 inches and the width is 5 inches. It's 5 inches. So if you measure it now, it's 5 inches. You're going to be folding it into 2. So unfold is 2.5 inches. All right, this is for the front, and for the back we have 2 pieces. We have 2 pieces for the back. So I cut out like this and then I just lash it into 2. That is why the back is into 2 pieces. All right. I've also prepared my band. You can see the way I've done it. I fused it with my stay. Then I folded one side inward like this and iron. This is 1/2 inch. I folded 1/2 inch inward like this and then I iron it. Then you can see the way it is now. Leaving, this is my seam allowance now. Leaving just my seam allowance here. Can you see the way I've done it? I've done the same thing to the second side of the back, and also I've done the same thing to the front. I've fused it. And then I bend 1/2 inch inward like this, then I fold it back into 2, leaving my seam allowance of 1/2 inch here. Hope it's clear. Then there's another thing I need to explain to you before we go ahead with the back. Okay, so you can see this is the back part of our pants. So I said I didn't make my fabric is enough. I'm going to extend this center back. This is the center back here. You extend it by 1 inch and then you just slant it back to your side seam. That's all. Just extend this point here by 1 inch and then you slant it back this way. It's very simple and very easy. So the reason for doing this is so that it's not going to be opening. If you bend over, it's not going to be opening your back. But it's okay because I'm managing my fabric. Like I said, I'm using 2 yards. So that's just it. So this is just the little thing that you need to do to this part. Otherwise everything is in order, and even with this it's going to be very beautiful. You understand? But for those people with big endowment, please ensure to extend this center back by 1 inch or 1.5, depending on how big your butt is. Just extend it by 1 inch and then you slant it back to the side this way. All right, so that's all. Okay, so we are going to be sewing our shorts now. This is the front and this is the back. So what I would do, I'll work with the back first, because this particular request, the person, this is that shirt that I wore in that cow kaftan without back and side joining video. She now said I should make a tutorial on the shorts, but we should put the zip at the back. Normally I like my zip by the side when I'm making trousers. It's either I put my zip at the back or I put it in front. I'm not really a fan of the zip at the back, but since she said we should put the zip at the back, we're going to be doing that. So this is the 2 back piece. What I would do is I'm going to join. Before I start joining, I'm going to measure from this point here downward. I'm going to measure 7 inches and then I'll join from there all the way to this point. I'll measure 7 inches. From these 7 inches, I'm going to join with 1/2 inches all the way to the crotch area here. Can you see? I've joined the crotch area starting from 7 inches below the waistline. I join it all the way to that point. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to input my darts. So your dart position is your nipple to nipple distance divided by 2. But because you know this is going to have joining with ½ inch here, so you can add ½ inch to that measurement. My nipple to nipple is 8 divided by 2, that will be 4, plus ½ inch, that will be 4.5. So I will note this 4.5 points. So this is where my dart is going to be, and the length for the back dart is going to be 6 inches. It's going to be 6 inches. So I'll fold it into 2, and then I'll just sew ½ inch dart all the way to this 6 inches point. Can you see? So this is my dart. Do the same thing to the second side. Can you see? I'm done inputting my dart. The next thing I'm going to do now is to put my band. I'm going to be putting my band. Can you see? So what I'll do is, you know, we already fold it. So this part here that you did not fold inside this your seam allowance, mash it together, right side to right side, and then you join it on the waistline. You do the same thing for the second side. Can you see? So make sure you notch this part, because that is where your zip is going to stop. This is your crease line here, notch it, that is where your zip is going to stop. You do the same thing to this second side. So this is my zipper here. I'll change to my zipper foot. So place the right side of your zipper on the right side of the shorts, and then mash them together here. Fix your zipper. So I'm done with one side. I'll also fix the other side. Turn it upside down. So I'm done fixing the zipper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to use the band to cover the zipper head. So you open the zipper, flip the band upside down like this, and then you stitch this place. So when you're done, put your hand and turn it to the right side like this. You can see we have nicely concealed the head of the zipper. So the next thing now, you can use hemming gum to close here if you don't want your seam to be showing, or you can just top stitch here, which is what I'm going to be doing. So the back is ready. So I'm going to be doing the front now. This is the front here. So you place the two sides of the front together, right side to right side. And then you're going to join from here, from the waistline you join all the way to the crotch extension here with 1/2 inch seam allowance. The next thing now is to input our dart. Just like for the back, your dart position is your nipple to nipple distance divided by 2. Mine is 8 divided by 2. That will be 4. So starting from here, you know, this place now we're already joined with 1/2, so you can just measure the 4 from this, your line. Or if you're measuring from the beginning, you measure 4.5. Then the length of your front dart is going to be 4 inches. You note it. So I'm going to be putting my dart now. So I'm done in putting my dart, and this is how the front is looking. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to reshape the center front so that it can relax very well here on my tummy area. So from the waistline, I'll come down by 1/2 inch this way, and I'll blend it back to the side seam. Just 1/2 inch. Can you see? So if you open it up, you have something like this. So the next thing now is to attach our band. So I'll sew the band from the wrong side. This part here that I have my seam allowance here, I'm going to place it directly on the waistline, and I'm going to stitch it with 1/2 inch allowance. So when you're done, you turn it to the right side. So you push your seam allowance inside the band and top stitch. Alright, so I'm done. The next thing now is to join the back and front together. But before you do that, you can see your waistline now is looking very straight. So from the band, just measure 1/2 inch and slant it back this way so that the band can relax on your waistline very well. So fold it back together. So from the waistline here, just come in by just 1/2 inch and blend it back to the end of the band here. This way your band will relax nicely on your waistline. Can you see? You also do the same thing to the back. Measure 1/2 inch inward and blend it back. Alright, so the next thing now is to join the back and front together. So place them on top of each other, right side to right side. And then you are going to join together from the inseam area first. From the inseam area, you join with 1/2 inch allowance. Can you see the inseam? So join it together with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I've joined it together at the inseam, that is the under. So the next thing you want to do now is to hem the pants leg before you close the side seam. This way it will be easy for you to hem before you close the side seam. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I didn't really add much allowance, so I'm just going to be folding like this, just small. But if you have enough fabric, please add enough allowance to the hem. Done hemming the leg of the pants. So the next thing now is just to close the side using 1 inch allowance. If you remember, I added 1.5 for the allowance, and we already used 1/2 to join the crotch area, so we are left with 1 inch allowance. So you close the side with 1 inch seam allowance. And yeah, that's the end of the class. If you have not subscribed to this channel here, please kindly subscribe subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime I upload a new video. All right, so if you have not watched the part 1 of this tutorial, please go ahead and watch it. It's very, very important. Very, very important. Bye.